దూర విద్యా విధానంలో డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ దేశంలోనే మొట్టమొదటి సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం. దాదాపు 2.5 దశాబ్దాలుగా దూర విద్యా విధానం ద్వారా కంప్యూటర్ కోర్సును అనుసంధానం చేస్తూ BA, BCom, BSc డిగ్రీ కోర్సులను అందిస్తోంది. పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ స్థాయి, డిగ్రీ, డిప్లొమా స్థాయి కోర్సులను ఔత్సాహికులైన విద్యార్థులకు అందిస్తోంది. డెవలప్మెంట్ స్టడీస్లో సెంటర్ ఫర్ ఎకనామిక్స్ అండ్ సోషల్ స్టడీస్ ద్వారా MPhil, PhDతో పాటు విశ్వవిద్యాలయమే స్వయంగా దూర విద్యా విధాన అంశంపైన PhD వంటి పరిశోధన కోర్సులు ప్రవేశపెట్టింది. రాష్ట్ర వ్యాప్తంగా సుమారు 4.5 లక్షల మంది విద్యార్థులు ఈ విశ్వవిద్యాలయం నుంచి ఉన్నత విద్యావకాశాలు పొందుతున్నారు. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం స్థానికంగా స్వయం బోధనా పద్ధతిలో ముద్రణ రూపంలో రూపొందించిన కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అందిస్తోంది. కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అధ్యయనానికి సహకరించే విధంగా రేడియో, టెలివిజన్ పాఠ్యాంశాల ఆధారంగా కార్యక్రమాలు ప్రసారం చేస్తోంది. అధ్యయన కేంద్రాల ద్వారా ఏర్పాటు చేసే సలహా సంసర్గ తరగతులు, సైన్స్ ప్రాక్టికల్ సౌకర్యాలు విద్యార్థులకు స్వయం అధ్యయనానికి ఒక చక్కటి అవకాశం. ఇవి విద్యార్థి సమీపంలో ఉండే అధ్యయన కేంద్రం నుంచే పొందొచ్చు.
Good afternoon, viewers. I am D. Janardhan Reddy, Counselor, Department of Zoology, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Now we are having two personnel to enlighten us on the role of earthworms in organic management. This is the topic of second year MSc course 6 of Animal Biotechnology. I invite the resource persons: 1. Dr.A.Padmini, Counselor of Department of Zoology, B.R. Ambedkar Open University. The second person is Shraddha Vyas, Counselor, Department of Zoology, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Viewers, if you have got any doubt or if you want to ask any questions, you can ring up to the following telephone numbers: 040-2703-1431 and 1432 and 1433. Now I request Dr. Padmini to enlighten us on the types of waste in biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste.
Thank you, sir. As you all know, the topic for today is role of earthworm in organic waste management. Now, before going to the role of earthworm, we'll first understand what are organic waste and how it can be managed. Organic waste is anything that comes from plants and animals that is biodegradable. Now, what is biodegradable? Biodegradable is anything that can be broken down into simpler basic components which can be used again from the soil by the plants. And what is non-biodegradable? Now, this biodegradable waste can be separated into two forms, that is non-biodegradable waste and biodegradable waste. Now, coming to what are the examples of biodegradable waste, if you can see on the screen, biodegradable waste items which includes any fruits, vegetables, meat, poultry, seafoods, eggshells, rice, beans, cheese, bones, cardboard also, napkin papers and paper towels, paper plates, tea bags, coffee grounds and filters, parchment and waxed papers, plants, flowers and all that waste which are found in our garden. So, all these comes under biodegradable waste. Now, as I told you all, this biodegradable waste can be broken down into its simpler form and can be changed into the composting or which is used by the plants. Now, coming to non-biodegradable waste, now if you can see on the screens again, non-biodegradable waste includes any kind of liquids, toxic oils or liquids even paints comes under the toxic oils, and grease, the plastics, the tires, the rubbers, the styrofoam, glass, metal, aluminum foil. Now, all these comes under non-biodegradable waste. Now, what do you mean by non-biodegradable waste? It is nothing but the opposite of biodegradable waste. That is, this cannot be broken down in the nature. Now, this cannot be broken down, it cannot be used by the environment. These material cannot be decomposed by air, climate, moisture or soil. So, this stays in the environment for years together. In turn, they are polluting the land. Now, disposal of these non-biodegradable waste is a major concern for any government in any country, because as they are accumulating, they take up lot of landfills. Most of the lands are given only to this non-biodegradable waste, and this in turn pollutes the environment by emitting the toxic gases like methane and greenhouse toxicity is increased. Now, there are some methods to reduce this non-biodegradable waste, and there are some methods which have come up, that is by recycling. The most important is by recycling, the second one by combustion, third by landfills, and fourth by disposable of hazardous waste carefully. Now, what are the disposable of hazardous waste? That is all these toxic oils, the paints which are being used in the industry, all these are hazardous waste which emits the toxic gases in the air. Now, coming to the how these biodegradable waste are accumulated. Now, every year millions and tons of solid waste comprising of food, green garden waste generated from homes, institutions like schools, colleges and restaurants and hotels are ending up in the landfills every day, creating more economic problems and pollution. Other than this, the emission of powerful greenhouse gases, toxic gases, waste discharge increases the risk of polluting the air and groundwater, which are again we will be using it for drinking purpose or any cooking purpose, which is a polluted water. Now, to reduce these risks, studies indicate that vermicomposting of food and garden waste by earthworms is more efficient. Now, the importance of earthworms in the breakdown of organic matter and release of nutrients thereby, which contains the lots of nutrients, is known since long time, that is even before during Darwin's period in 1881. And Charles Darwin once wrote that it may be doubted whether there are many other animals which have played so important a part in the history of the world as these lowly organized creatures. So, this much of importance have been given to the earthworms more than any other animals, because these have been playing a major role since time immemorial, that is even during millennia. They have created a land for the plants to grow by composting the organic waste. Now, it has been demonstrated clearly that some species of earthworms are specialized to live in decaying organic matter. Now, because why we are introducing this earthworm is because one thing is they are specialized to live in organic decaying organic matter, and thereby degrading the organic waste and decomposing them. Not only decomposing them, and they create rich available nutrients like sodium, potassium, phosphorus and magnesium, which can be readily taken up by the plants. So, that is why we are most importantly giving importance only to the earthworms. Now, for instance, how does the earthworm work? Earthworms are able to process all the biodegradable waste like sewage sludges, which are emitted from the industries, solid waste, brewery waste, that is from the beer companies, processed potato wafers. These are all nowadays lots of potato wafers, potato chips, corn chips, all these companies are coming up very rapidly because of the fast food, and the waste which are coming out from these, and then from the paper industries, waste from supermarkets, hotels, restaurants, and animal waste from poultry, pigs, cattle, sheep, goats, horses, rabbits, as well as horticulture residues, the plants that is the dead plants, yard waste, waste from mushroom industries. All these can be biodegradable. Hence, research into vermicomposting and commercial projects have been developed in many countries like England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Japan, India, Southeast Asia countries like Australia, New Zealand and many South American countries. Now, what is vermiculture? Now, vermiculture or vermicomposting is derived from the Latin word means vermis, means worms. Vermis is nothing but worms, and composting essentially by taking up, consuming the organic matter by the earthworms and creating the vermicompost. This not only speeds up the decomposition, it also provides nutritional rich end products, as I told you, sodium, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, called vermicompost in the form of worm casting. That is, after the digestion of the organic matter, whatever is coming out excreted is nothing but vermicompost, or it is also called worm humus or worm manure. Now, these castings have shown to contain reduced levels of contaminants, which is most important, and higher saturated level of nutritions than do organic matter which was in raw state. It also contains, most importantly, water soluble nutrients. The vermicompost or the manure which we have got contains water soluble nutrients which is easily soluble in the water and is an excellent nutrient rich organic fertilizers and or soil conditioner. Now, what is soil conditioner? Conditioner is nothing but the soil has to maintain a pH level, a basic pH level. The soil should not be more alkaline or more acidic. A little bit of acidic, say around 6 to 6.5 is most applicable for the plants to grow. So, these are maintained by the vermicompost, and this process of production of vermicompost is nothing but vermicomposting. Now, when we to go into the detail, first we will understand what are the phylum, the classification of the earthworms and the anatomy. Then we will go into detail how this vermicomposting is done and what are the species. We will know from Shraddha madam.
Now, I request Shraddha madam to explain the status of earthworm in animal kingdom and also the digestive system of earthworm, which is an important component in degrading the food material, and she will also explain about the role of earthworms in vermicomposting.
Good afternoon everyone. So, as we have already seen, madam has explained, Padmini madam has explained about the importance of vermicomposting. So, before going into the detail about vermicomposting, let us first understand what are earthworms. Earthworms are very commonly available animals or worms which you generally see during the monsoon season. Generally, when it rains, you generally see the worms collecting in the water puddles, collected water mud puddles. You generally see the reddish brown worms. Those are nothing but the earthworms. So, first we will go into the status of the earthworm in the animal kingdom. It is given a very special status in the animal kingdom because it has a special significance in the soil tilling. The specific property of earthworm is it burrows horizontal as well as vertical. Because of this unique property of earthworm, it brings out the fertile soil layers, the deeper fertile soil layers outside to the outer level of the soil at the topmost level. So, it is just acting like a plough. So, generally some of the scientists like Charles Darwin has used the term as nature's plough for the earthworm because it is just tilling the soil in such a way that it is bringing the fertile innermost layers to the top layer, and in this way it is helping the farmers in producing better produce. That is, you can also call it as the farmer's friend. One more name of earthworm is farmer's friend. Again, because of these unique features, it is also sometimes referred to as ecological engineers. because what they are doing, the special property just now as we have discussed, they are converting the toxic waste from the environment, what all the human beings are collecting, they are converting the toxic waste into a non-toxic form, which is much more enriched with the nutrients. They are neutralizing, they are making the acidic waste into the neutral waste. So, they are revitalizing, they are enriching, and they are also detoxifying the waste, so that it is more and more useful to the mankind. That is the main application of earthworm in our lives, we can say. So, before going into the details, let us first study about the classification of earthworm. As we all know, it belongs to the phylum Annelida. So, Annelida, the characteristic feature of Annelida, as we look at, it contains the segmented worms, metamerically segmented worm. That means the body of the worm is divided in such a way that it shows regular segments throughout the body, from the tip of the mouth to the posterior most anal opening. We see throughout the body it is divided into metamerically segmented body. And again, when we look at the internal features of the phylum Annelida, we find that it shows the true coelomic cavity. That means the body cavity, the body wall and the alimentary canal shows the true coelomic cavity, which gives different kinds of functions. And the most important one is it acts like hydrostatic skeleton. It helps in the locomotion of the earthworm. So, mainly the earthworm locomotion is based upon this coelomic cavity. Then next, coming to the different anatomical features of earthworm, when we look at, we find that the circulatory system is also unique. It contains a closed circulatory system, and it shows the presence of the dorsal tubular heads, and also it contains the digestive system. The most important feature which we are going to discuss is the digestive system. Before going into detail about digestive system, we can just have a look at the classification of the earthworm in the visual. We can have a look at the classification. So, as we see, the phylum Annelida, it has been divided into 3 classes. The first class is Polychaeta. Again, this one contains mostly the aquatic forms. The characteristic example for this we can see is Nereis. Next, the class Oligochaeta, that is the most terrestrial forms. The earthworm belongs to the class Oligochaeta. And lastly, the class Hirudinea, which contains the most commonly available, that is the leech, Hirudinea, or the leech is commonly seen in the class Hirudinea. Now, let us go to the next visual, looking at the morphology of the earthworm. When we look at the features of earthworm, the first segment we can say is the prostomium, which encircles the mouth region, and at the middle region we are seeing the clitellum. This is a thick layer. Actually, this is the feature which differentiates the mature earthworm from the immature earthworm. When we want to check if the earthworm has matured or not, we just check the clitellar region, that is a thick region which is unsegmented. Actually, that is the only region which is showing a thick texture, while the rest of the body it shows a very soft wormy texture with total moisture covered through the cuticle. The cuticular surface of the earthworm is the main purpose of respiration actually. So, the body is totally covered by this moist cuticular layer, and the clitellum is the only region which is the thick region, and it has a special significance in the reproduction process. Next, we can also check at the male genital opening, which is in the 15th segment, as well as in the 26th segment also it is seen, and the female genital opening which is situated on the 14th segment. Now, the clitellar region, it keeps changing from the species to species. Like some species we have, it is like Ferritima, we have 14 to 17 segment, whereas in other species we find that it is from 33 to 37th segment. So, depending upon the species, the clitellar region is varying according to the species of the earthworm. Next, we will come to the next most important feature, that is the earthworm digestive system. The total importance given to earthworm, or the total weightage of earthworm, is mainly because it is able to digest the toxic waste. It is able to digest the toxic waste and make it more useful to the mankind. So, when we look at the digestive system of earthworm closely, as we see in the visual, we can see that first it starts with the prostomium region or the mouth region, which is next followed by the buccal cavity, which is next followed by the pharynx and tubular esophagus, which is followed by the thick crop as well as a very thick muscular gizzard followed by the intestine. So, we will go into the detail of each and every point of this digestive system. So, beginning with the prostomium, we know that the earthworm does not contain any teeth structures. So, actually it feeds on the decaying matter or the leaves or the dead plants slowly with the help of the prostomium. So, in the prostomium region itself, it contains a starch digesting enzyme which helps in breaking down the plant material so that it can be easily swallowed by the earthworm. One more mechanism for pulling the food inside is it uses the suction method. The suction method to pull the food inside from the prostomium region to the buccal cavity. Coming to the buccal cavity again it is around 1 to 1.5 segments from the prostomium. Okay. The buccal cavity, it contains mostly the enzymes which will help in mixing of the starch digesting enzyme with the food particles. So, the buccal cavity, main purpose of the buccal cavity is mixing of the food with the starch digesting enzymes which were actually produced during the prostomium region. Now, as the food slowly passes from the buccal cavity, it enters into the next region, that is the pharynx. Pharynx is a very muscular structure when compared to the buccal cavity, and the pharynx also contains the cerebral ganglia. Actually, at the top of the pharynx region, we are finding the cerebral ganglia. The cerebral ganglia, it is situated in between the buccal cavity and the pharynx region. So, when we dissect the earthworm, actually we are able to see a nerve ring structure, that is circumpharyngeal nerve ring is seen, which is present just at the top of the pharynx region. So, when it comes in, when the food passes into the pharynx region, here it is grinded into very small pieces with the help of the sand particles. So, the unique feature is earthworm also ingests the fine sand particles which help in grinding of the food. So, the grinding and the digestion of food is starting at the muscular pharynx region. Now, the muscular pharynx region also has lateral folds. The dorsal lateral fold is the salivary chamber and the ventral lateral fold is conduction chamber. So, the saliva of the earthworm is thoroughly mixed in the pharynx region with the food. The saliva, again it contains the starch digesting enzymes as well as the proteolytic enzymes. So, it is helping in the digestion of the carbohydrate, the biomolecules carbohydrates as well as proteins is starting itself in the pharynx region also. So, slowly as this pulpy mass, slowly it moves into the esophagus region. We can go for the next visual. We find that in the esophagus region now, the food is slowly getting grinded thoroughly with the help of the different proteolytic as well as the amylase enzyme. The amylase is the starch digesting enzyme, and we also have the chitinase enzyme. This is a very unique enzyme which is helping in digestion of the tough chitin, which is generally found in the exoskeletal structures. So, it is even able to digest hard structures like chitin because of this secretion of chitinase in the esophagus region. Slowly with the help of esophagus digestion, it now moves into the crop region. So, when we look at the crop and we compare the histology of crop with the gizzard region, we find that the crop is smoother when compared to the gizzard structure. Gizzard is a very hard, very thick muscular structure, whereas crop is a smoother structure. Crop is mainly for grinding purpose. Here again we have coarse sand particles which are collected in the crop region and they are thoroughly mixed with the food, so that the food grinding or the biting of food into small pieces, the chopping of food into small pieces occurs in the crop region. So, as the food mixes with the coarse, it forms a pulpy acidic mass. The secretions of crop are very acidic. So, totally we get a pulpy acidic mass in the crop region. From the crop region now, the food slowly moves towards the gizzard region. We can go for the next slide. Here we can have a look at the dissected digestive system. Very clearly we can see all the features, that is the buccal cavity, the pharynx, and also the esophagus region. It is being covered by the seminal vesicles and also the tubular hearts, which are the characteristic feature of earthworm. And as we see, we can also see the crop region and the gizzard region. We can go for the next. In this region, we can very clearly see the difference between the crop and the gizzard. The gizzard is very thick, circular, globular structure with lot of muscles. Actually, when we look at the histology of gizzard, It contains outer longitudinal muscles, a thick band of outer longitudinal muscles and inner circular muscles. So, it is acting like a food processor. Like in the old nomenclature, we also name it as proventriculus. It is also called proventriculus or gizzard. So, the main purpose is it is processing the food into very fine pieces with the help of this thick musculature, the thick bands, that is outer longitudinal and inner circular muscles, both together in coordination. They are helping in grinding and churning the food very well, very thoroughly, so that the food can be easily chopped into very fine pulp, very fine minute pieces, and then slowly it passes into the intestine. So, now in the intestine, actually the intestine starts from the 15th segment, and we can see that around 22nd segment we find that the intestine, it shows foldings called as intestinal caecae. These are the main structures which are helpful in the intestinal secretions or intestinal enzymes. The secretions of the intestine are coming out from the intestinal caecae, the folds which are present in the 22nd segment. So, this intestinal juice or the intestinal enzyme, it contains different types of enzymes which are helpful in breaking down different types of biomolecules. Like it contains the proteolytic enzymes, it contains amylase, it contains amylopsin, and it also contains chitinases, sucrases, starch digesting enzymes. So, different types of, and it also contains the mucopolysaccharide digesting enzymes also. So, all the tough material, tough organic waste, very easily it can be digested because of this intestinal secretions which are coming out from the intestinal caecae, the folds of the intestine in the 22nd segment. So, as the food is thoroughly mixed and it changes into a smooth pulp, and as it passes from the intestine, now it enters into the intestinal folds or the intestinal caecae, and with the help of the different secretions, the total digestion starts in the 19th segment. From 19 to 26 segment, actually the digestion and assimilation process goes on. Slowly we can see that the different biomolecules are being broken down into smaller molecules, or the simpler versions, simpler end products are formed, and they are also assimilated in till the 22nd segment. Later on, after the 22nd segment, actually the excretory process begins. So, the excretory process actually begins from the 26th segment, and the excretory matter comes out from the anal opening, that is the posterior most part of the earthworm, that is the anal opening. The excretory matter comes out in the form of worm castings. So, depending upon the species, some of the species they just eject like a small bolus worm castings, whereas some of the species also show a linear string of worm castings. So, different earthworms show different patterns of excreta. So, this worm casting, because it contains many enzymes from the intestinal caecae, even after the excreta is ejected out, still the digestion process goes on. Still the toxic waste actually, or the organic waste, is being converted into simpler and simpler end products. That is why the worm castings are of much greater value for the mankind, because they are very beneficial. When they are mixed with the soil, they act like manures, or you can say they act like biofertilizers. So, that is the main significance of the worm castings. They are filled up with lots of nutrients. Then one more point we can remember, that is about esophagus containing calciferous glands. This is also a characteristic feature of earthworm. Earthworm is able to digest the calcium, high levels of calcium, mainly because of this calciferous glands. On the either side of the esophagus, we find the calciferous glands which are able to digest even hard structures like bones. You keep the earthworm for a longer time, even it is able to digest the bones, mainly because of this calciferous glands. Calciferous glands will secrete calcium carbonate. The first step is they will neutralize the acidic food which the earthworm is consuming. The main food which is taken by the earthworm shows acidic nature. So, the acidic food is first neutralized because of this calciferous glands the neutralization process takes place, and also it helps in digesting high amounts of calcium. That is also one of the most important feature we learn about the digestive system of earthworm. Now, we can also find that throughout the body of earthworm we have the nephridial openings or the excretory openings at each segment. On the either side of each segment we find the excretory openings or the nephridia. Now, coming to the next, coming to the economic importance of earthworm, that is vermicomposting. As we have already discussed, vermicomposting process is nothing but it is the conversion of the toxic waste, whatever the collected waste the mankind is littering here and there, that waste is being modified into a much more valuable version or much more enriched version, mainly because of the earthworm. So, there are different methods or different procedures by which vermicomposting is done. So, the main benefits, coming to the main benefits of vermicomposting, it usually helps in increasing the porosity of the soil. When the worm castings are mixed with the soil, it increases the soil aeration, it increases the porosity. So, in this way it is helping in the water percolation in the soil. So, in this way indirectly it is helping in the plant growth, actually the root growth of the plants. The roots are very easily they are able to develop in the soil structure, mostly because of this well aeration or the porosity. The porosity is coming because of this worm castings. When the worm castings are mixed with the soil, they are increasing the aeration, they are increasing the porous nature of the soil. So, in a way we can say that it is helping the planet Earth, earthworm is helping the planet Earth to go green. Actually, it is making more and more plants to flourish. So, recently they have also made different types of applications of earthworm, like they have used earthworm in animal feeds. In some countries like Australia and Spain, they have fed the cattle with earthworm because it contains lots of nutrients. It contains vitamin B12, high levels of vitamin B12 and niacin, and also because of its calciferous gland secretion also it is very useful for the cattle industry. So, they are just mixing this earthworms with the animal feed, and in that way also we have one more applicability of earthworm. And recently they have started using earthworm to degenerate the human excreta also, like how they have been using for the organic waste. In Australia recently they have started using the vermicomposting method, just they have attached it with the human excreta in the human toilets, and they are finding that it is a very good option or very good way of converting the human excreta into a more useful form. So, in another sense we can say that they are helping in cleaning up the drainage system, or they are helping us to root out the drainage problems. So, that is still at the beginning. If we go deeper into the research, maybe one day we can use that for our drainage systems also. So, there are many applications of earthworm, and there is no limit actually about the applications of earthworm. I would like Madam to continue with the topic.
Madam, will you continue?
Vermicompost?
No.
Yeah. So, as we have seen now, we have completed the process of the digestion in the earthworm, and we have also seen a bit of what are the importance of the vermicomposting. Now, if we come to know, we have known 3000 known species of earthworms are present in the universe, in the earth, and only among these 3000 only 6 to 7 earthworms are most important in vermicomposting. Now, why so? Because these particular earthworms, they have specialized in thriving in the decaying organic matter. So, they have been specialized, the body organism has been specialized to thrive only in the decaying organic matters and thereby changing into compost materials. Now, what are these different types of species? These are in there are at a temperate region and tropical region. You have two different types, as you can see on the screen. We have Eisenia fetida, Eisenia andrei, Dendrobina veneta and Lumbricus rubellus from temperate region. And you have other three in from the tropical region, that is Eudrilus eugene, Perionyx excavatus and Perionyx haviana. Now, you can see on the screen, you can see the Eisenia fetida or the red wrigglers, and then you have the Lumbricus rubellus or also called red worms, then you have Perioneous excavators from the tropical region, then you have Udrilus eugenia or African night crawlers as it is called. So, these are the 6 different type of species which will be helpful for decomposing the waste material. Now, coming to what exactly these earthworm does, as madam has already suggested that these earthworms acts in the soil as aerators, that is because of the character of its burrowing nature horizontally, transversely, wherever possible, they create a passage whereby the air, water can be moving up and down, and thereby not only the air movement and water movement, because of these aerators, microorganisms can thrive very well into the compost material, thereby degrading these compost into a smaller, simpler components. Now, these earthworms, they act as aerators, they act as grinders, as madam told, that is the compost are being taken up, ingested and grinded at the gizzard level. Even the stones can be grinded at the gizzard level. They act as crushers and chemical degraders and biological stimulators. They also secrete enzymes, protease, lipase, amylase, cellulase and chitinases, which bring about rapid biochemical conversion of cellulosic and proteinaceous materials in the variety of organic waste used, which originate from homes, gardens, dairy farms and farmlands. The process, now we will see, we will think that vermicomposting or the decomposition of organic matter is very foul smelling, because we litter every organic materials wherever possible, on the roads, on the by lanes, everywhere, and you feel that there is some foul smell emanating from these. But vermicomposting does not give any foul smelling. That is because they release some coelomic fluids in the decaying organic biomass, which has antibacterial properties which kill the pathogens. That is, antibacterial is they kill all the bacteria which give the foul emanating smell, thereby odorless compost is being produced for us. Now, coming to the species used in India, what are the species that can be used in India? In India, there are the Indian blue, that is the Perionex excavators. Then you have Udrilus eugenia, that is also called African night crawlers, and then you have Icenia fetida, these are called tiger worms. Now, Icenia fetida was also used in Australia, and Udrilus eugenia was found to have higher feeding, growth and biodegradation capacity compared to other 2 species. And it has been known that even Japan, they import thousands of tons of earthworms every year for decomposing the organic materials. Now, coming to what are the benefits, why we have to do all these by using earthworms. We can also do it by mechanically and by chemically as anaerobic digestions or aerobic digestion, or leave it in the open space for decomposing. By doing so, just if we leave that as in the open air for decomposing, you have the foul emanating smell, and in turn you have all these green gas, harmful green gas, toxic gases like methane emanating from them, thereby creating global warming. So, to reduce this, we have to, or the government has to improvise on vermicomposting technology, give lots of importance to this, so that what are the benefits is, the major benefits of earthworm activities to soil fertility. Chemically, if you see, in addition to dead organic matter, the earthworm also ingests any other soil particles. As we said, the gizzard can break even the soil, that is, these animals, these earthworms take up even sand particles, that is almost up to 1/20th of an inch, that is 1.25 mm into the gizzard, wherein those minute fragment of grit grind everything into fine paste. The gizzard grinds everything into fine paste, which is then digested in the intestine by the enzymes. When these worms excrete this in the form of cast, now you can see in the ground wherever there are earthworms, you can find some small round casts in the soil. So, these are nothing but the excreted part of the vermicompost. These have lots of minerals and plant nutrients. These are changed to accessible forms for plant use. Now, investigations in the United States shows that fresh earthworm casts are 5 times richer in available nitrogen, 7 times richer in available phosphates, and 11 times richer in potassium. Now, all these 3 are most important for any plant growth than the surrounding upper layer, because this vermicompost you can find only in the lower region of the soil. You will not find them on the upper region, because these earthworms thrive under the soil, because they do not like sunlight. They cannot thrive in higher temperatures. So, you will always find them underneath 6 inches below the topsoil. Then in conditions where humus is plenty, the weight of cast produced may be greater than 4.5 kg per worm per year. So, each earthworm can produce 4.5 kgs of vermicompost per year. Now, if you take in biological point of view, biologically in many soil, earthworms plays major role in conversion of large pieces of organic matter into rich humus, thus improving soil fertility. The most important is they improve the soil fertility. Now, this worm cast contains 40% more humus than the topsoil, as we have already discussed. This also enhances germination, plant growth, crop yield improves, root growth and structure also improves. It also enriches soil with microorganism, because these microorganism also helps in decomposing lots of the waste material inside, adding plant hormones such as auxins and gibberellic acid. Now, physically, as we have already seen, physically what it happens, the earthworms burrows, its nature is burrowing nature. So, it by burrowing it creates a multitude of channels throughout the soil and is of great value in maintaining the soil structure, enabling process of aeration and drainage. Thereby, the microorganism can thrive very well in such soil, making the soil very fertile. Thus, the earthworm not only creates passage of air and water to transverse the soil, it also modifies vital organic components that makes the soil healthy and fertile. Now, coming to the enrichments, the soil enrich soil with microorganism, that is by adding enzymes such as phosphates and cellulose. Microbial activity in worm casting is 10 to 20 times higher than any soil and organic waste. Economically, how economically it is important? Bio-waste conversion reduces water flow to landfills, that is from these bio-waste during rainy season or any water drainage flow, this dirt is not allowed to come into the landfills, thereby polluting the groundwater level, the groundwater and the air. And it also create low skill jobs at local level, because it does not need any greater skills. So, you can have low skill job at this local level point. Low capital investment, very low capital investment is needed, and relatively simple technology makes vermicomposting practical for less developed agriculture regions. Now, low capital investment, as we have said, it needs very less amount of investment for this purpose, because the raw material is already there, that is the biodegradable waste. You only have to buy some earthworms. Now, when we have calculated, if you are investing 1.5 rupees, you will get a profit of 3 rupees, 3.5 rupees. So, in a very simple calculation, a very less capital investment and the gain is also there, that is more than double amount you are gaining it. Now, environmentally, how it is useful environmentally? Production reduces greenhouse gas emission, that is vermicomposting reduces green gas emission such as methane, nitric oxide, sulfur oxide, thereby reducing global warming. What is global warming? Everybody knows. Global warming is nothing but the emission of these methane gases, which is not at all good for the environment, depletion of ozone layer, thereby increasing our skin diseases like cancer and other skin ailments, and the other things like at Arctic region also, because of this biodegradable this emission of methane at Arctic level also, the icebergs are melting at a rapid stage, whereby it can even deplete the land area also, thereby decreasing our land living land regions. So, this also is reduced by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the most important, very important topic is protein crops. It protects the crops from pests and disease. Now, we will see how an earthworm can protect the crops from pests and disease. This is another significance of great agronomic and environment value, is that vermicompost generates biological resistance in the plants against pests and disease. As you have seen, it has an antibacterial nature. So, thereby this has biological resistance in plants against pests and disease. It repels insects because of the vermicompost, they repel the insect pest and suppresses plant disease in crops and inhibit soil-borne fungal disease because it has an antibacterial effect. All these are important source we can see, that is they give a biological resistant plants which is most important for the human mankind. Now, this has led to the significant reduction in the use of dangerous chemical pesticides, because we have to we are always having a fight between the pests and the crops, thereby we create lots of chemical pesticides and thereby harming ourselves in turn, because these chemical pesticides are not biodegradable. So, we are in turn consuming all this and creating problems within ourselves. So, these also can be reduced because of this vermicompost. Now, this vermicompost tea, that is, what is vermicompost tea? It is nothing but vermicompost is dissolved in the water, left it for 2 to 3 days, so that all the nutrients present in the vermicompost dissolves in the water, and this works as a powerful biopesticides, completely safe for agriculture use. So, this is nothing but vermicompost tea. So, if you want to just use it as a biopesticide, just take some vermicompost, dissolve it into the water, leave it for 2 or 3 days, and then you can use this spray as biopesticides, which is free of any pesticides. Now, we have seen all this, and now we can see why we have to take up a vermicompost as against the garden compost. What is garden compost? We just, whatever is left out, we just pile it up at one place and leave it for biodegrading. But what is the difference between a vermicompost and a garden compost? Now, if you can see on the screens, you have some parameters which shows clearly, differentiates clearly which is important and which is not. Now, if you can see the pH range, the garden compost has a pH range of 7.8, which is more alkaline, and vermicompost you can see at 6.8, which is most applicable for any plants to grow. So, if you want your plants to grow very well, the soil should be a little bit of acidic, so that some of the microorganisms can thrive in this type of soil to generate the decomposing process. Now, coming to EC, EC is nothing but salinity. Now, if you see the salinity, available salinity, if you see in the garden compost, it is 3.6, whereas in vermicompost it is 11.7. So, you have a readily available of salinity in the soil, which is most useful for the plants that you get only in the vermicompost. Now, if you see the total nitrogen in garden compost is 0.8, whereas in vermicompost it is 1.94, and then nitrate nitrogen. This, what is nitrate nitrogen? This is a nitrogen which is readily available for the plants. So, this if you can see, there is a tremendous increase in the vermicompost. If you see in the garden compost, it is only 156.5, whereas in vermicompost you have 902.2. So, you can see why we have this vermicompost called as biofertilizers. These are also called as black gold by the farmers, because it has lots of nutritive value. So, these are also called as black gold. And then you have the phosphorus, that is at 0.35 at garden compost, whereas in vermicompost it is 0.47. And then you have potassium, that is at 0.48, whereas in vermicompost you have 0.7. And calcium, as madam has explained about the calcium, you have in garden compost only 2.27, whereas in vermicompost you have 4.40. Now, if you see all these things, we can clearly say that vermicompost has a very good biodegradable and which is very good biofertilizers for the plants to grow, and in turn reducing the pollution in the environment and decomposing all the organic matters in the environment. So, we can definitely give a lot of importance to earthworm, and we can even start up at our house level also, wherein we can collect all the decomposed biodegradable waste which are collected in the kitchen, and we can create some small bins at our home level itself, create a bed and decaying process, use some earthworms into it and create your own vermicompost. This vermicompost can be used for better growth of your plants at your garden level itself. And then we can even think on small scale industry also, either by producing vermicompost. You can sell even the vermicompost for the agriculture purpose and horticulture purpose, and even you can even sell the earthworms if you are interested to the person required who may buy these earthworms also. So, these are the importance of the role of earthworms in organic waste management, sir.
Okay.
So,
If you don't mind, madam,
yeah.
will you tell me what are the important nutrients in the vermicompost?
So, yeah, like we have already discussed.
Of course.
Yeah, we what are the important nutrient is, first thing is we have nitrogen, nitrates at a available rate, that is nitrogen nitrate, which is easily taken up by the plants. Then you have phosphorus, you have potassium, you have magnesium, which are most prominent in the vermicompost. What is the difference? You can even get in chemical fertilizers also all these nutrients.
Yes.
But what is the difference in the vermicompost and in the chemical fertilizers? These are slow dissolving process. The vermicompost dissolves the nutrients at a very slow rate. They do not allow it to leach. Whereas in chemical fertilizers, these nutrients are leached at a faster rates, and then the pesticides are left out like that.
Then the growth of the plant will be more in chemical.
No,
Leaching means it is releasing.
leaching
no?
is, yeah, we are washing away the nutrients at a faster level.
Leaking
when
of
you are
the
watering,
nutrients.
when you are
Yes,
watering,
what I want that.
yeah. So that is where the nutrients are slow water absorbing, and they release the nutrients slowly into the soil, and the plants are able to assimilate it at a faster level.
Madam, can you answer what are the conditions necessary for the earthworm?
Yeah, this is most important.
Yes.
The earthworms thrive only at 0 to 25 degrees. More than that, the earthworms will die, because when you see, they are never seen on the top layer.
Yes.
They hate sunlight. If you leave them for more time at the sunlight, they may even die. So that is why you can find them active only at from 0 to 25 degrees. Then the pH should be maintained at 6, and then humidity should be at 60 to 70%. If these three conditions are maintained, you can have a very well vermicompost being generated.
Madam, in tropical regions, the temperature will be more, no?
Yes, that is why tropical region you have different types of species of earthworm, as I had mentioned earlier.
Which can survive.
Yes, Eugenus euglenius and
Perionyx,
excavatus. These thrive very well in tropical regions.
Can you explain some benefits?
benefits of vermicomposting. Yes. Most important is it is increasing the fertility of the soil because of the porosity. It is increasing the porosity, it is increasing the aeration actually, and it is also helping the water percolation. As the water is dripping down, the roots are able to spread more easily into the soil. So, one thing is it is making it more porous and more fertile. It is bringing the fertile layers to the top also. If you take earthworm, it is helping in tilling of the soil, but when you take of vermicompost, it is helping in the aeration. When you use it as a manure, it is helping in the aeration, as well as it is decreasing the acidity also. It is making it more alkaline actually. It is neutralizing the soil content. That is one of the benefit. And again, like recently they have done an experiment using the neem vermicompost. Yes. They have taken the neem leaves and they have subjected it to the vermicomposting, and then they have put it on brinjal saplings. Yes. And what they have seen is the brinjal flowers are showing rapid flowering, quick onset of flowering is seen. Yes. Even the height of the plants has increased, and also the leaf area also has increased. So, if that is applicable to brinjal, we can later on spread it to cabbage, vegetables like cabbage, where the leaf area is more of economic importance for us.
see.
And also it is helping in in-depth root growth because of this vermicomposting. So, it is a very safe manure actually. Why do we go for chemicals when we have this biofertilizer with us?
Non-toxic.
Non-toxic
contaminant free.
biofertilizer.
I see.
And it is easy to make as well.
Low investment.
Low
capital
investment, we can go
and
for employment opportunities also for countries like India. We can encourage people to enter into this.
Can we experiment it in the house?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
sir,
kitchen
definitely.
also we can
Very
have
simple,
kitchen
sir.
compost.
How we have to do is, you can take any cardboard or any plastic boxes, make first a bedding. Bedding consists of any cardboard pieces, any waste paper, newspapers or wrappers, newspaper wrappers you get. You just make it into small scraps, make it a bed, then you put some organic waste, whatever organic waste you are cutting, the vegetables, the skin of whatever citrus fruits, whatever, put it on then make one more bedding, then we make an organic bedding, and then you introduce your earthworms into it.
Yes.
Make some holes into the box because you need some oxygen.
Actually,
movement.
I have a visual for
If you
that.
are going to explain it, where from we get the earthworms and how many earthworms we need?
Yeah, like see, earthworms, it depends on the how much amount of bin you are creating. So, if it is at a house level, maybe 100 or 200 earthworms will do. Will do to create the vermicompost.
100 to 200 is enough.
Is enough because at if you take 100 or 200 earthworms in a month, then in the next month itself you will have 110 or 120. So, it keeps increasing because they keep copulating inside the and
Yes,
they
yes,
produce,
yes,
they
will
produce, they give young
Actually, we
ones.
can look at the visual I have about the kitchen compost. A very small kitchen compost which is very handy for domestic purpose. All the vegetable peels, orange peels or potato peels, everything we can dump it in.
So, you can see the removable lid and the brandling worms, the
I
top
see.
layer you have the brandling worms
And
then
newspaper
layer
bedding
of
also we have
newspaper
kept.
worm bedding because
And
newspapers, why
it
do
is
we
eas-
need?
It is very easy.
It is easy.
Very
to-
easy
yes.
and
Easy to
very
do it.
less cumbersome. And
Actually, some of the universities have already started doing it in their canteens. Like we have it in Gachibowli, Central University,
I see.
as well as some universities in Pune.
Both of you for all who are coming to the studios and giving your precious explanation and all these things, and I once again thank